week 10 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few defense DST units I would start this week. The first one, the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints here have a great matchup this week at the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they really can't do anything on offense, it seems like, this season, is this Pittsburgh Steelers team, especially with the rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett. So over the last few games, not great fantasy outings for this New Orleans Saints team. Besides Week 8, Week 7 in Arizona, 30 points allowed, 2 sacks. Week 8 versus the Raiders, 4 sacks, an interception in that one. And then Week 9, and a shutout. And then Week 9 versus Baltimore, 27 points allowed and 3 sacks. But this week here, as a one-week play, this Saints team's a team that I think could put up fantasy points. Steelers give up the 7th most fantasy points to defenses on the season. And like I said, Kenny Pickett so far, he hasn't looked good in his rookie season. Chase Claypool traded away to the Chicago Bears. And that offensive line as well, not playing good football and blocking for Pickett. So this week here, I think the Saints could get a few sacks, have a decent fantasy day, anywhere from 8 to 10 fantasy points. And their start this week, the next defense, the Tennessee Titans. So this Titan team, last week they showed me they can hang in there and play with the best offenses, even though I know Mahomes still went off for over 400 yards in that game. This Titan defense held down this Kansas City offense to 20 points, and it had to go to overtime for that to happen. So the last few games here for this Titan D, Week 7 versus Indianapolis, 10 points allowed, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, a fumble recovery touchdown. Week 8 at Houston, 10 points allowed, 3 sacks, an interception. And Week 9 at Kansas City, like I mentioned, 20 points allowed, 4 sacks, and an into. So this week here, great matchup versus the Denver Broncos. Give up the 10th most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. Russell Wilson, he hasn't looked good this season. He's definitely not 100% with his back issue and other elements as Wilson. And that offensive line not blocking that great is well over there in Denver. So right now, I think this Tennessee team can make them one-dimensional once again, where Russell Wilson's going to have to throw the football 40, 45 times in this one. And that's where I think they could tee off and get a few turnovers possibly. And this is what they're built on, running the football with Derrick Henry and playing good defense is this Titan defense. The next defense, the New York Giants. So the Giants is a one-week play here. I like them a lot versus Houston Texan offense that has nothing going for them except Dameon Pierce. If they could shut Dameon Pierce down early and make this team one-dimensional on offense with Davis Mills trying to beat him, I think this Giant defense could come out with a good fantasy day. So the last few games for them, Week 6 versus Baltimore, 20 points allowed, 2 sacks, an into, a fumble recovery. Week 7 at Jacksonville, 17 points allowed, a fumble recovery, a block kick in that one. And Week 8 at Seattle, not a great game though, 27 points, 3 sacks, and a fumble recovery. But right here, the Texans give up the 13th most fantasy points to defenses on the season. I think in this one, this Giant team could get to Davis Mills a few times, at least 2 or 3 turnovers I could see happening. And like I said, there's nothing going on this offense besides Dameon Pierce. Brandon Cooks, yes, he might return in this ball game, but he really hasn't been a factor this year. Nico Collins has had a couple decent games, but he's not really a game changer for this offense. So right now, I give the Giants a start this week. The next defense, the Las Vegas Raiders. So another 1 week type of play on defense is the Raiders, with a great matchup at home back in Vegas versus the Indianapolis Colts that give up the most fantasy points to defenses on the season. So right here, this Colt team's a mess. Their offensive line banged up as well. Sam Elder, he hasn't looked good at all in his first 2 starts in his pro career. And now they fired Frank Reich as the head coach as well, with Jeff Saturday taking over, and he was even shocked by the news. So right here, I know sometimes teams go out there and they play good football after a coaching change. They get new juice and new life to the offense. But right here, I think this week this Raider team can make a few plays. Like I said, Jonathan Taylor, we don't know if he's going to be playing in this game. Allen just failed to get the ball down the field to his wide receivers. Michael Pittman hasn't done anything as it is. And this Raider team, they're due for a victory after starting the season now 2-6 and blowing last week's ball game. So right here, I would give them a start this week. The Raiders is a 1 week start. Only in the 5th and final defense I look to start, the Dallas Cowboys. So this Cowboy team coming off a bye week. Some guys who were injured starting to come back and get healthy. And this team's built on the defense for the most part here. Dak Prescott, I know he's back, but the defense has been carrying this team for the majority of the season. So the last few weeks here for Dallas. Week 6 at Philly, 26 points allowed, 4 sacks. Week 7 versus the Lions, 6 points allowed, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries. In Week 8 versus Chicago, I know they gave up 29 points in that one with some garbage time in there, but 4 sacks and a fumble recovery touchdown by Micah Parsons. So this week here, in a good matchup with the Packers that give up the 4th most fantasy points to defenses on the season. Aaron Rodgers has been a shell of himself this season. Last week, he couldn't even get the job done versus one of the worst defenses in the league in the Detroit Lions. And we'll see what he does this week versus a great D-line with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence headlining it. And Aaron Jones, we don't know if he's going to be 100% or even playing this ball game as well. So right now, this Cowboy defense coming off a bye. They want to get this victory from Mike McCarthy. And this Packer team's been reeling now, losing 4 or 5 in a row. So this Cowboy defense definitely a top 3 play this week. So that's a few defenses I would start here for week 10 of the fantasy football season.